Good afternoon, everyone. He mentioned 6 months, and I'm here to talk about Tabadul after 6 months. And I will start with something very personal and something actually happened to me. So 6 months ago, joining the team, sitting with my manager, the CEO, Mr. Abdullah, as you all know, he was telling me about my role, and he mentioned this Tabadul. And he started explaining the idea. And one of the challenges when I was thinking about it, this is totally non-traditional for a financial market to do this type of projects. And then I've started asking why we're doing this, because there's so many competing factors with that. And I will come to that. I wanted to see the value, and I've challenged many times the team about, do we really know why we're doing this? If I'm going to go to our friends, for example, in Jordan or in Egypt or in any of the exchanges and explain what is the value, I need to have a strong business case. Otherwise, the project is dead before it starts. And then what I found out, actually, I will focus a lot on the value and what is Tabadul, but what I found, it's not a project. This is the key thing. We are in production. We have orders and trades between exchanges. And over the last 2 days, I was getting questions and people saying, but how much the volume, etc. So literally, I've switched the slides yesterday evening. I've added many numbers to make it more related to the topic. Nobody can disagree. When we have numbers, we can't have an argument. It's a fact, okay? So I will start with talking about Tabadul. What is Tabadul? When this whole idea started, and I will focus a lot on the dates, 2022. This is when the initiative is 2 years old. Yeah. So 2022, it started with 2 exchanges finding a value of connecting with each other, and I will explain the difference between connecting the 2 exchanges or a broker or a member in one exchange do a DMA with the other. But it all started with these 2 exchanges. First ever trade, July 2022. And then fast forward with a couple of months, a 3rd exchange with Muscat joining as well. So the idea was we create a hub. Okay, we have all this and we can talk about our exchanges, about the details, about the mechanics. But I think the key thing is how the world look at us. We are not the big fishes in the markets, yeah? We do have liquid companies. We have very good stories to tell in many of our growing economies, in our boosting economies, but we get stronger together, let's put it that way. And I told Abdullah, when I was in the region 15 years ago, there was a talk and discussion about connecting the exchanges. So I told them, we've been talking about this for 14 years, but this time it's live, it's in production. Okay, so the first thing, we don't ask any exchange to change their rules or regulations or to change their business model. The platform is designed in a flexible manner. You can pick and choose, do whatever you want, and just as a business model on the exchange level. And I will use 2 examples because they are very key examples. Foreign ownership in the issuer. I have a limitation how many foreigners in the issuer. You can control that. I don't want all my companies to be listed on hub. What is the currency traded on the hub? This is a simple thing. So we don't do the exchange maintain its rules. The other thing, the initiative, the program will run the mechanics. You don't need to worry about it. All the mechanics is already done part of the project and the initiatives there. So what we are today, why to join Tabadul? We already have 3 exchanges, and I'm very happy to say last week, the slides were sent some time ago. Last week we had AIX trading with us, and on the first day we've seen orders coming in between the exchanges. Yep. And we have case, Tajikistan signed, and originally when I started the project, I thought it's the Arab words only, but literally in the last months, and it's not a secret, we've been in Fias, our friends, in Uzbekistan last week, and we signed an MOU with another exchange, which paved the way to join Tabadul, and we've seen a huge interest. And the reason of that, it's very hard when you start. But once you are in production, once you see orders and trades, when you see investor actually doing it, and I will show the numbers in a minute, and the last one there, I will focus a lot, no fees. You have no, there is no loss for you even to try and join. Yeah, we are running everything, we are operating everything. This is the actual numbers. Today, we have 3.8 million investors in the hub. We have 11 trading members, and I will show their names. We have 240 plus listed firms. Okay? And this is how it literally works. Like, the next question is, as an exchange, let's assume, and we've talked about that in one of the meetings, if we don't do anything, we know our business model, things will continue progressing. Trialing a new project, it can work. We can increase liquidity. What is the worst thing it might happen? It won't work, but then no harm happened. Yeah? So with that, market liquidity, large investor base, and no fees to join Tabadul. We don't share any commission with any exchange. You just join us and you operate with us. So if we think about the approach, and here like Steve Jobs, when they created the iPhone, have you ever seen a manual for iPhone? No, it's simple. It should be simple. It's all about simplicity. It's a simple onboarding process, yeah? And by onboarding first thing is from a regulator to regulator, exchange to exchange, and then when we have a member to join us, because it's all about the members. The members need to join. The exchanges will create the link, will sign the agreement, regulators will sign the agreement, but then the members are the key thing, because they are interacting a lot with the investors. So here is the list. These are exchanges. These are active members. They are on the platform. And I was telling Abdullah the other day, my boss, I have a good problem. I have a backlog of work. The current team, we can't cope with it anymore. We are expanding the team again. So it's a good problem to have, but it is, again, we have members requesting. At the beginning, we were going to the exchanges. Now some exchanges are talking to us. It's the other way around as well. Although we are saying the priority to the people who we talk to first. So like you definitely have that. So the next one, the easiest part of this, and this is the easiest part, is you send an order, because it's an order routing. I'll send the order, I will send it, let's say, from our member in Abu Dhabi all the way to Muscat, for example, trading engine. That's the easiest part. What happens next is the important. How you will do the settlement, how Tabadul as a operating framework will actually have funds in every country, yeah, and how it will run the smooth, like post-trade activity. And there was a lot of thinking there, and as I said, I'm more than happy to do a technical. Actually, tomorrow, in part of Amida, we will do some technical session of the post-trade activity. But the other one, which has a huge appetite, and we've just released it, is the IPO. So Tabadul provides IPO access. So let's assume now you sit, our friends in Kazakhstan, in AIX, they have an IPO, and we have an investor sitting in Abu Dhabi, yeah? And that investor can, from him sitting in Abu Dhabi, participate in the IPO in the other parting country. So the IPO is a key thing, because that supports the primary market. And last but not least, which is coming up very soon, is our market makers participants. In ADX, we have this active market makers, and our market makers want and are heavily involved to create markets in other exchanges. So through Tabadul, they can actually do that market making activity. I will spare the technicalities. I don't have a lot of time, but I still won't have some numbers. I wanted to run it with you. So if we think about simplification, there is a 3 element to Tabadul. And these 3 elements, I always talk to my team about it every day. And we challenge ourselves, and we keep doing this every time. When we have a new exchange coming, when we have a new member coming, how we can make it quicker, how we can make it simpler. Yeah, the procedures and the regulations we created, we can change them. Simpler, quicker, and it's an efficiency game. And then when it comes to trading, we've challenged ourselves with the market making. The market making is a very different business. Before they agreed to work with us, they came to me with a number. That number of thousands of orders per minute, can you reach that? Yeah? Yes, if you are connecting to the trading engine directly, you can reach that easily, but this is cross countries, and we had to adjust on the technical side many things. And we reached a point where the market maker said, okay, I can work with that. Okay? So, and the most important one now, clearing and settlement. When you are in a different countries and you want to open a bank account in that country, there is a long list of KYCs, details, etc. So you can trade as a member with, let's say, omnibus accounts. Yeah, so or you can actually create for your investor and individual accounts. So it's an end-to-end process. If somebody asks me, can you tell me how it works? I will show you real-time, an order, and real-time, we've done that in one of the meetings. You open your mobile through your member, you choose the exchange, you click it, you see it all the way through. Yeah? Like we as a people, as an individual, I can show you to real-time live, how it trades in the other exchanges. Now, because I get this question so many times over the last 2 days, how much numbers you have, guys? Like, is it actual value? Does it really worth it me as an exchange to do it or not? So the next 2 slides I've added some of that information, not all of it, of course. So if we think about orders, because that's the first thing, yeah? And here, Q1 2024 is the first one. I'm comparing Q1 2024 to Q4, like what happened quarter to quarter. You can see it's 3 times multiples increase. I don't care about the number, it's 14,000 order, that's not a big number, but the project is 2 years old, but I'm looking into the acceleration of growth, yeah? And then if I'm comparing it 1 year ago, yeah? So that's the small number there. It's a massive increase in growth, and that's actually what matters, yeah? Because at some point it becomes exponential. If we think about the value, because I can send an order with 2 shares, that does not matter, yeah? But I'm talking about orders value in AED, these numbers, yeah? Again, we had at the beginning, people get excited, and then Q4, and then Q1. And Q1, one of the key reasons we've started with more product, we started doing marketing. At the end, you can connect any exchanges, and I bet almost every exchange have the same thing. You have listed firms, the firms need to tell the story to the investors. If the investors don't know about the firm, they will never trade it. And I'll give an example. I met one of the investors, big investors, and we were talking about Tabadul, and he said, you added Kazakhstan, AIX. I don't know anything about AIX. He said, like, I'm interested in the topic, but like how I will get more detail. So now we are running a program in which we will try to do work on a roadshow between the members, in which we bring the companies to tell their stories, and we facilitate that. Even on our Tabadul link, we will need to tell more stories about the listed firms. People need to see the value. Like, okay, I knew one firm only, very, very famous, like a firm in AIX. So I said, like, that's an interesting one. I read the financial. That's the only one I read on that exchange. But now I need to even personally expand more my knowledge. That's the orders. We talk about actual trade. Yeah, again, the number itself does not matter itself. I'm talking about the exponential growth. Like, this is where we were Q1. And some people, I had a long debate, should I show the number or not? Again, that's super small, tiny, and then look where we are. Now, again, by the way, I might come here next year, I don't have a story, like the numbers are still the same. That's possible. But with this session, I'm trying to encourage everyone to say on 2 topics. Definitely there is no loss of trying, yeah? And we've seen some of our friends in exchanges pushing to change of the regulations, because some of the regulations in these in the countries need to be adjusted, yeah? And some of the exchanges were leading in pushing the regulators to adopt and change, yeah, on the regulation. And the technical part is very easy. And I'm sticking to that point. The technical side is the easiest side, is adjusting the regulation. And the last question I'll bring, what about the currencies? Different currencies, you know, like fluctuation currency, the FX risk. More than happy to take this separately, because there is a business model for this. And the business model, again, there's definitely things to be aligned, but there is a business model for this. And we are not the first people who ever done this. Yeah? And just on the numbers, and why I'm picking on the numbers a lot, because we've asked China Connect, yeah, like China Connect, they had a big project linking the exchanges. How long it took to see the actual activity? These things does not happen in a day or 2 or a year. Realizing liquidity and over this type of connection will take time. Yeah. So with that, of course, like, thank you very much for listening. I tried to make it short and sales as much as possible. Thank you. Will I be able to take questions at this stage, or I'm run out of time, James?
I'm not the boss, but I suppose with that energetic, vibrant presentation, I think you deserve definitely a question. Any questions? Any hands that could be raised? Anyone who would like to pick the brain?
Amazing. I can take this. Ah, there's one, please. Maybe we do.
I'm not raising a question over here. We are a participant of Tabadul Hub. And just to add one of the points that Saqar already raised, it is not just a connectivity, it's the potential that comes with this connectivity. We have connected brokers. Maybe the numbers are still very low compared to the 2 years that we worked together with the Tabadul Hub, but the potential is raised now. I had this talk with the regulators last week as well. We are seeing a different business coming into this. Market makers that we miss in our market. Now we see market makers from other markets wants to join Oman because their markets has already, they reached their maximum potentials. So they seek different connectivity to others, and DMA is one of the most important things for market makers, direct market access, and they can do it through Tabadul Hub. So we have seen this, we have seen the requirements, we have seen a potential from different participants to come in, and that will reflect positively in the upcoming years. Just a point to complement what you have seen in the presentations, and thank you very much, Saqar, for
and I would like to thank Haytham for spearheading the change in the regulation in there. Like, he made a massive effort to drive that change and to make the project of the connection between us. And actually, I would like to invite as well briefly, because like Mr. Abdullah from Bahrain wanted to add a comment as well. Like, I have all the partners, all the members. Like, this is the best
no more your presentation.
It's not a marketing tool. I think, as you've mentioned, Saqar, since Oman is there, ADX, so I thought also as Bahrain, just to come and present on this, the most important project we have ever seen in the region. And we've been hearing in the past 20 years stock exchange connectivity and a stock or share connect that is happening between Shanghai and China was a very challenging. But we can see lots of harmonization among the 3 stock exchanges in the region, and then now Astana. We've seen support from our regulators in order to overcome the regulatory part of it. Technical was a challenging part, but I thought it was the easiest part as well. So, despite of the statistics, when you look at the project, you can see it as a difficult one, but in reality, it's a very smooth one. Onboarding is very easy. You can have just simply in 5 minutes access any market. Today we have an IPO as a plugin to the project, yep. And I think there are more is coming. We encourage all of the stock exchanges, not only on region, not only also on the Arab board, but also international, since we have Astana, and we think there are 10 plus.
I wanted to close with that, actually. I wanted to close with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I will close with 2 more statements. The pipeline 2 weeks ago and was 11 exchanges. Today, I've confirmed, I have the names, we have 16 exchanges in the pipeline. Yeah, so 16 exchanges, and this is not all from the Arab region. We have even from other parts of the world. And the last thing I want to, again, when I was in Tier 1 bank, I was sitting in London in Morgan Stanley, and I've heard something on the desk. And that's actually what motivated me a lot in coming back to the region in Abu Dhabi, and especially this project. There was an investor, massive investor, asked the Tier 1 bank, they are interested to invest in 2 companies in one of our countries. Yeah? And there was this big debate operationally. I was part of the back office, the operations, and like the cost of running the operation. And the operation is not only the trading, they need to do surveillance, trading, everything. For only these 2 instruments, they ended up saying it does not worth it, Like we will not do all this massive operational. Let's try to find a DMA member. We sign a small deal, we give that. And we don't need to expand. Think about, we give the offer, connect to the hub, you take 15 exchanges. So even if you are interested in 2 in each, there is enough of them to build a direct connectivity. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saka. That really was a fantastic presentation. I love the impromptu senior people coming up as well. Mr. Haytham, thank you very much. Bahrain clear. I believe there was a gentleman who you raised your hand, sir. Did you put your hand up? Yes, we did. So this is what we do at the AFCM. I mean, we make it interactive. So if you don't mind, one more question from you, sir. If you can just maybe
I will
shout
pass this myself.
and there are more hands going up, but I'm sorry, just one more question, then we have to move on for the next presentation. But you can always pick Mr. Saka's brain after.
So thank you, Saka. I suppose my question is, you're very securities focused. Is there any strategy about improving access to all financial instruments across the region?
So thank you very much for the question. Very important.
That wasn't a loaded question.
No, totally not. The first thing is, for example, you can trade ETFs through ADX for connectivity. On the first phase, like we didn't offer the derivatives, for example. The derivatives are not there. On the technical side, it's very easy. One of the discussion is happening at the moment with one of the exchanges. They have not only equities, but that's a choice of the exchange. We can't, the whole thing is built on simplicity, and it's their choice. If they want to offer the non-equities that they traded on their exchange, they can. Okay? So if we start putting conditions, this won't work. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once again, let's give it up for Mr. Saka at the ADX. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Right, I'm even more excited for the next presentation, so please give a nice big warm round of applause for Lena Tanui, who's the project manager at African Exchanges Linkage Project. Let's give it up for Lena.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a lot of pressure to go right after Saka. I was just going to stand behind the podium, but now, I guess the whole floor is mine. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Rami, and the entire organizing team for such a wonderful conference, and also for inviting Africa. I know Rami had mentioned that he forced us to sign the agreement, but then he has been a friend of Africa, and we do have a couple of exchanges that we share in common. So it is a great pleasure to also just present to you the African Exchanges Linkage Project, which basically has the same agenda and ideas as what you have already had previously. So I will not go into too much detail about the reasons for us to do this. I also get similar questions on what's the purpose, what is your end goal, what is your end goal for this? But before I go into the project itself, I would just like to give a brief introduction about the African Securities Exchanges Association, which we have good representation here. We have the president, we have the outgoing president, and we have the head of the secretariat. We have 2 exchanges, the Egyptian exchange and Morocco. The Cameroon Stock Exchange also represented. So we have about 26 members, member exchanges, but then we have regulators and other associate members. So just for the same reason, the purpose of the association is just to bring all the exchanges together to do networking and also just to increase liquidity. So the challenges in the African markets are not very different, but then ours, because there's 54 countries, there's about just as many currencies within the region, but there has been a lot of, research that has been done over time. We have done case studies, both with the Africa Development Bank, the IMF, the African Union, and, we have realized that there is definitely opportunities that exist, through integration. So while we work through the capital controls that exist in the different markets, the FX management and currency convertibility issues across the continent, capacity building gaps that exist within our markets through participating brokers, regulations, and also prohibitive taxation on investment and securities dealing in capital and movement of capital gains, and also just, the smaller exchanges in the continent remain illiquid. So then what then is AELP going to do? What we're trying to do then with the AELP is, first of all, to open up the markets through the linking of these exchanges. Then we all work towards removing all these constraints that exist in the markets, and also just enabling cross-border trading, harmonized market infrastructure, investor education. We have talked at length at every conference about investor education. And so what we are aiming to do is to bring, awareness, to raise awareness on opportunities that exist in African markets through such forums and other capacity building processes or that we have had. And also, again, removing constraints on capital transactions and movement into the continent, out of the continent, and also just to enable, a free flow of funds, which will eventually, facilitate increased liquidity within the markets, and also just to, generally to facilitate development within the continent. So, back to that, we want to boost Pan-African investment flow, infrastructure harmonization, because there is a lot of, infrastructure gaps within the continent. There is a lot of, hindrances towards, or rather, we're not as advanced in, some of the markets are not as advanced in terms of technology. And then we also want to facilitate the access to and free flow of information. The AELP will give access or provide access to information on market data, the prices that exist in all these markets, every security that is listed in these markets, because we have realized that a lot of global investors do not know much about African capital markets, companies that exist, and generally just opportunities that exist within Africa. So what we want to do is to collectively work together to bring information about the markets and also empower the traders themselves to give them access to all this data that they then can use to make informed investment decisions. And then also there was a question or a comment about the different products that exist in the markets. What we want to do is also to facilitate the promotion and even innovation of products within Africa. And then also to build capacity for regulatory policy formulation and harmonization of these regulations. And then the ultimate goal is to improve depth and liquidity of African markets and to support cross-border capital raising through IPOs. Some of this may be a very long process. What we've just had was, the previous project they're just 2 years. We have, worked through very many processes and many years to get to where we are. So these are all our partners. When we work together, when we work in Africa, we bring everybody together. So obviously, ASER is all the exchanges that are participating in the association, all the African capital markets. And then we have partners such as the Africa Development Bank, COAFIC, and then we have DirectFN, who is our tech partner, and then the African Union, because this is, it's more than just about bringing exchanges together. It's part of the African Union's agenda to integrate African markets. And then we have the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, who then will help us to facilitate the cross-border movement of currencies, the currency convertibility, as in as much as we have 54 countries, we have just almost as many currencies. And so just the convertibility from one African country to another, we do anticipate that the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System will also help us facilitate that. And then in terms of capacity building, we will work with different organizations such as UNECA. So these are the main aspects of what we're trying to do. First of all, tech enables a lot of processes. That's why we have the AELP link that links exchanges and brokers to one trading platform. And then capacity building, which also includes the brokers, the different stakeholders. We are doing a lot of training and awareness raising within the continent and outside of the continent. And then the biggest part is regulatory framework. We have worked with the various exchanges to work on rules and regulations that will facilitate cross-border trading. So in terms of, like the exchanges that we have already connected, as I'd mentioned, we have 26 members in AZER. We have currently 9 participating exchanges. We have technically connected 7. And in the coming months, we will connect Botswana Stock Exchange and Ghana Stock Exchange. And then out of all these, we have more than 35 brokers that have already enlisted and have been connected to the AELP link and are currently participating in trading. And then, so this represents about 16 countries. What we will do eventually is, expand this to include more exchanges and more countries. So the equity market capitalization of all of these exchanges is about 1.2 trillion. And just to focus on the AELP markets, in terms of securities that are listed, each of these exchanges have equities, bonds, ETFs, REITs, and derivatives. So once you connect to the AELP link, you'll be able to access all these securities, the securities that have been listed in those markets. And again, as it had been highlighted before, we're not, asking exchanges to change their regulations, but however, we're working with existing regulations. We're working with whatever the exchange offers is what we will offer to the general public. And so, in conclusion, then, what is our next step? As I'd mentioned earlier, we have the partnership with the African Union. So this is not just, for the exchanges. It is part of the continental-wide integration process. And so the African Union then has also given us the mandate to create a Pan-African stock exchange. And so based on the linkage of existing stock exchanges, then we will use that as a framework for the Pan-African Stock Exchange. So then what is our next step? What we want to do right now, what we've done is we've connected 9 exchanges, 16 countries, about 1.5 trillion. But then as we seek to go into full integration, there are about 30 main securities exchanges in the continent. So that is our target. By the end of all this, when everything has been said and done, we do hope that we will have connected all 30 exchanges, which will represent about 42 countries, because we have some regional exchanges. We have about 2 regional exchanges that represent almost 8 countries each. And then, that then will bring together about 1.6 trillion in assets within Africa. So why am I telling you all this? The biggest idea is to increase diversification opportunities. And so when we come to members like yourselves, what we are trying to do is obviously give you an opportunity to diversify your portfolios, invest in all the other global markets. And what we want to do is also to bring Africa as, to improve our chances of visibility across the continent. And so then we call upon investors from all works, different countries, wherever you are, to come into Africa. We have great opportunities. And even with the signing of the MOU yesterday, then that means that now, through our collaboration, then we can all achieve the Pan-African Stock Exchange dream. So I thank you all again for your time. And I don't know if I have time for any questions, but then yes, I got a thumbs up. So I will possibly take a question or two or comments. That's very interesting. So he's just asked, what about connecting with Tabadul? So we have only just signed the agreement, and I think it sounds like a very great idea because we already have exchanges that we have in common. So as we have North Africa that is connected, but then now North Africa then will give access to the rest of Africa. So that is definitely something that we will explore to connect, because we already have technology providers that are similar, or rather that we have in common. So that is a great idea that we will look into. Thank you. All right, there's one more question.
Africa and Middle East in collaboration so that the exchanges are actually able to fulfill this incredible vision that you had. So I'm countering that question. Sorry?
Start over.
Repeat the question. Oh, I was doing a ceremonial rebound on this question of the collaboration to ask whether that also means that all the CEOs of exchanges in the Middle East region will stand behind the Africa-Middle East collaboration after that cooperation happens.
It's a tough question for me because I'm the president of Africa and Middle East Depository Association, where we'll be having our conference or annual conference tomorrow in the same hall. I think the collaboration is just clicked in my mind. We'll talk about it, and I think that's going to happen because now I'm wearing two hats. I'm wearing the FCM. I'm also wearing the African Middle East Depository Association. So we'll have to work on this collaboration and make it happen. Thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.